Right, let's go.
Hello, we're here to help you advertise the Huawei watch, which, as you know, is a smartwatch with a focus on helping people to exercise and stay fit. This presentation was made by me, Lewis and Kyle, and if you want to go into the history side of things.
Okay, so Huawei was founded in 1987 in September. The headquarters is in China, Shenzhen, so it's a Chinese company. Originally manufactured phone switches for telecommunications devices. Now they've actually gone into the market of selling phones of their own. 2018, they were overtook by Apple as the second largest smartphone manufacturer in the world, just behind Samsung. They shipped more smartphones than both Apple and Samsung in 2020, but due to the Trump administration, they have not been able to sell as successfully due to him putting fear into the public of Chinese spyware, therefore them not buying it as a country. But as 2021 has came around, they are now trying to get back into the US market due to Biden being now in the administration and hopefully getting on the good side of America when it comes to selling phones. With our survey results, we didn't have too many to go off, but we did get some good answers. When we asked, have you ever owned a smartwatch, we understand that it's not everyone has one and it's not completely mainstream yet, but we got a 50-50 for yes and no for our questions on that one. We asked, how often do you use your smartwatch if you own one? 100% would say monthly, so not too often. We saw, so it's not a priority. What do you look for in a smartwatch? Plenty of apps and affordability. We know that buying the phone itself is quite pricey, and then to buy an accessory worth upwards of £400 is quite a lot to ask. But we understand that. That's why Huawei are probably better because they are cheaper to buy. Would you use a smartwatch in exercise? 100% maybe. Two different answers there. There's not a lot to go off due to the amount we had, but we suppose that if people did use them, they would use a watch for exercise, as it is pretty easy to use. What is the main appeal of the smartwatch? Controlling your phone from the wrist and more convenient than a phone. When it says more convenient than a phone, what it's probably trying to say is it's just easier to use in your day-to-day, looking at your watch, seeing your text messages come up. So it's kind of compatible with it, it's phone on your wrist. When controlling your phone on the wrist, you can't really control the actual phone itself, but you can more control what apps and stuff come up on your watch. Would you recommend a smartwatch to a friend? 50% said yes, 50% said maybe, so kind of more positive on that one, but most people would say they would want a watch, it's just that they are very pricey. That's the survey.
So the biggest competitor for Huawei is in fact Apple, who popularised Apple Watches and smartwatches in general, and therefore they have a lot more sales. With Apple recently releasing their 7th generation of Apple Watch, people will be wanting to upgrade their technology, so now is the perfect time to get a Huawei watch. Huawei sold 18 million smartwatches in 2020, whereas 34 million were sold by Apple. The main selling point of the Huawei watch is its cheap price and long battery life.
Now this is where we get very wordy, so brace yourself. But in terms of advertising, Apple is very important to look at because they're the king of the market. So they're obviously doing something right in appealing to their audience. And the newest generation is the Generation 7. But if we take a step back and look at the Series 6 watch, we can see that a lot of the trends in their adverts remain the same, which helps to build up the synergy between their watches. But the adverts always have close-ups of the watch in its function, showing what it does. It has over-the-top scenes in this advert, it was the result of a bear attack to show that the watch could call emergency services for you. But generally speaking, the adverts are made up of close-ups to show off what the watch does, a comedic tone, and a in-your-face, over-the-top memorable moment such as the bear attack. If you want to move on to a bit more, that's just more of a thing. Series 7 continued this trend with it has the general atmosphere of deep questions. What is the meaning of life being more about the opening, showing the tennis ball as a planet, which links into its use as an exercise watch, much like the Huawei. But generally it continued the comedic trends, if you want to move on to the next one, and had its over-the-top high points in this one being camping on the side of a cliff to show how adventurous and daring its customers are, if you move on. And across them, the general things that we should use in the Huawei adverts that we can see working in Apple is the diverse cast to show that their product is for everyone, the close-ups to show what the watch does, building up synergy between different versions of the product, and the comedic tone making it memorable and lasting in your mind. Compare that to the current Huawei adverts, which are just boring. They don't have any particularly comedic tone. They attempt to be inspirational with the pitch of a meeting going on throughout the advert, only to be improved by the watch. But even then, it falls flat, it doesn't inspire you, and the only memorable part is the many close-ups that it uses. So if we were to borrow more aspects of the Apple advert in its entertainment value and its memorability, then we'd have a far easier time selling Huawei watches. If you want to move on. In terms of its posters, I think both companies are kind of lacking in those. The Apple Watch has very basic, minimalist posters, but if you look at it, you don't know what you're getting. It doesn't tell you anything about the watch other than the fact that it is in and of itself Apple, which relies heavily on brand loyalty. If you move on. The Huawei posters, I think, are better at this, as although they're very minimalist, you get to see the watch, how it looks on people, and in this one specifically, you can see how resistant it is, implying that it's waterproof and being on the beach so that it's durable. So with our with our posters, we want to borrow more from the Huawei side of things, showing off how the watch looks and its function, rather than from the Apple side, which was just minimalistic and boring. And the main things we need to advertise on the Huawei watch are its water resistance, the many fashionable different faces of the watch that can be downloaded through the apps, the fact that it tracks your steps, views message notifications, has a GPS, a heart rate monitor, sleep tracking and exercise. And the way we plan to do this through our advert is directly showing the audience what it's like to have to do all this exercise and such without the watch. There's nothing else after this. But we'll show, for example, someone trying to track their steps, counting it verbally, only to see the person with the watch just looking down at their watch and knowing exactly how many steps they've done that day. Or people trying to figure out how many calories they've had that day. Calculators trying to calculate exactly what they've eaten. Whereas the people with the Huawei just immediately know with a tap of the button on the watch. And that'll help contrast the life without the watch to life with the watch, along with building a more comedic advert to make it memorable. And that is about it, so any questions? Go ahead.
How many people did your survey?
You were the survey king, you want to admit?
2.
Yeah, what 2 people, thanks guys.
So you talked about what they do with your advert. Have you got an idea of what you guys want to do with your advert?
Yeah, generally with the presentation, we're going to make it more unique from the generic, you just see people with a watch, and we're going to take more of a spokesperson style, because we've seen over the past couple years that adverts that have more of a spokesperson in them tend to last longer. If you look at like Flex Tape, their adverts became a meme for months, and everyone knew what the product was because of Phil Swift. So our advert, the person with the watch, will quite literally be the face of Huawei for a while.
Because it's quite a competitive market between you and Apple, how are you going to like push yourselves forwards and kind of gain more sales than them?
The main way we do it is by showing what Huawei has to offer over Apple. Because if you look at the Apple Watch, they've released their 7th generation smartwatch, and it is the exact same watch as the Gen 6 with a slightly nicer screen and a better heart rate monitor. It's not a completely new product, but if you look at when Huawei release new products, they are notable improvements. So if we're able to show off how the Huawei watch is just better with each generation rather than the same thing with a slight difference each generation, then that'll put Huawei on top.
Okay, is that everything? Yes? Okay, good job. Right, cool, that's this bit, but I wanted to kind of talk